Hi, I'm Zach Pratt, and I'm here today to start a new program that I have going here and will be on YouTube at Peg TV here in Rutland. Anyways, I'm going to try to explain a few things that I've learned over the years, and hopefully you'll enjoy learning about them too. So I tell people that I'm just a farm boy from Clarendon because that's where I grew up the first 6 years of my life anyways, on the homestead, which was settled in 1768 by the Button family. So I'm an 8th-generation Vermonter, and I was down at Marketplace the other day checking out, and the cashier said to the lady that was behind Kim and me in the store, "Hey, farm girl, how you doing?" So being a farm boy myself, I said, "Well, I'm a farm boy. Where'd you grow up?" She said, "Clarendon." And the other girl said, "Well, I grew up in Clarendon too." So then I said, she said, "Well, I was driving tractor when I was 8 years old." And I said, "I was driving tractor when I was 8 years old too, but people don't believe me. And today, I don't even think you can drive one until you're 20 in the state of Vermont." But anyways, times change. So we had a good chat about Clarendon and what's going on there. So I'll start there. I was born in Proctor Hospital when there was a Proctor Hospital. And from there, my family had to move to Whiting because it was my father and his brother. They were running a farm, but when the new road went south through the farm and split it in half, that sort of destroyed that dream. So off to Whiting we went. So I spent the first 7 years or longer up in Whiting on the farm, had registered Holsteins, and I went to the Whiting 2-room schoolhouse there with Mrs. Desorder and Mrs. Wilcox were our instructors, and got to know all the Quinvilles and Billadews and Cousineaus and all those people really well. So it was a fun time there, but then again, the farming got bad, so my dad and uncle sold out, and Dad moved to Castleton. So I lived right there in Castleton, graduated from high school. When I graduated from high school, it was during the draft period, and instead of being drafted, I volunteered and went in the Air Force. So I served a number of years, and I'll talk some more about that later on in this presentation. But so from there, it came back. I worked at Metro Mail, General Electric, Omnia over in Florence. Plus, I started my own firewood business because really couldn't make a good enough living off of Metro Mail at the time. So I started it was Castlewood. Maybe some of you purchased wood from me in my logging firewood business back in the day. Anyways, that I had to move on from once I started at General Electric. I didn't have time. But I did have time to get to know Frank and Patty McGlory. I went on, while working at General Electric, they paid my way through school, which was really great of them. And I got to get a degree in business and finance from the College of St. Joseph right here in Rutland. Well, my tenure was up there at GE. I had my 6 years in, so I was a vested employee, so I decided it was time to go on to get a degree in recreation, which is one of the things that I really enjoy and really enjoy having people come and take part in. So went off to Central Michigan University to get a degree in leisure services. So my master's project was Earth's Future First. It was about ecotourism, and I pulled together managers from the Forest Service, the National Park Service, from Michigan University, from Michigan State University, Central Michigan, all sorts of different people, plus private organizations. There's a Kirtland Warbler Fest. So we talked about ecotourism and what ecotourism could do for a community. So I was also a part of Michigan's Upper Peninsula Partners in Public Recreation, and we had a lot of projects that we worked on together. And I was basically a volunteer and doing a little bit of consultant, but we made a map. And that was back before we have all this fancy stuff. This was back in 1993 or 94. So just a few years ago, really. We made up a map that showed all the campgrounds and campsites and public places plus some private places in the Upper Peninsula. So in case you never heard the term before, anybody that lived below Mackinac Bridge was a troll. So I was a troll. So I'd come up every once in a while not every once in a while, all the time, to enjoy Lake Michigan and Lake Superior and all the different lakes around Michigan. It's a beautiful state. So I also went on from there to get a doctorate degree from Michigan State University in park recreation and tourism. And while I was there, I did my doctorate study, and I move around quite a bit. So I'm finally settled back here in Rutland. But anyways, went on to get my PhD degree, and I did the study while I was up working at Linden State College, the Community College of Vermont, and Springfield College in St. Johnsbury, working in the business and recreation departments and human services over at Springfield. So my study was done or conducted at the White River Junction VA Medical Facility, and I was interested in performance and how do you get an organization to performance. And in my study, I found lots of different models, but the one that I used looked at external environment and mission and strategy, two different types of leadership, transformational and transactional, organizational culture, and how that correlates with performance. So the director of the VA facility there in White River Junction was good enough to let me do my study. So that's what I did. I did my study and graduated in 2004. Well, in the meantime, and I'll talk about that some more as we go along, I had the chance to travel because of the ecotourism conference and work for an organization called VOCA. So I went to Slovakia and I put together a book, and I guess I'll just wait till I get there and show you some slides so you can get some pictures of it. But I've traveled around quite a bit. I've probably never been in any place longer than 10 years at a time. So I'm back here in Rutland, and Kim and I decided we're tired of unpacking boxes, so we just unpacked the last box the other day, and we are not moving again. We're here to stay. So with that, I'm ready to move on with this slide presentation and show you a lot of the photos. So I have thousands of photos. So let's talk about some of those areas. So some of the topic areas that I'm going to be speaking about are public lands and also partnerships and volunteering and recreation, of course. So whenever I get a chance to be in a logger, get up on a stump, that's me. And this is a group of kids from Spring Creek, Nevada, and we're up in the Ruby Mountains doing a tour on one of the Forest Service's wonderful trails up there. And this is actually in Lamoille Canyon. And Lamoille Canyon was named after a Vermonter from Lamoille County that went out there in search of rubies. He actually wanted to name the town of Lamoille, Vermont, but the people of Lamoille decided, well, we're not going to name our county after a state, so they named it Lamoille, Nevada. So I had a great time leading kids and their escorts, their adults, their parents with them out on this school tour. So some of the public places, public lands and places I'm going to talk about are the Bureau of Land Management, where I ended up working. I got hired out there from Linden State College while I was working up in St. Johnsbury. So the amount of time I was up there, all I had was adjunct professors. They didn't have any full-time positions. So after a while, and getting to be the age I was, I said, well, I need to get a job. So I got a job out at the Bureau of Land Management, got selected to work out there in the emergency stabilization and rehabilitation portion of it, and to manage their $8 million budget that related to fixing the land or preparing the land after a wildfire. And they had had 60 wildfires over the course of 3 years go through Elko County. So I had to keep track of those 60 fires, and they have different accounts because the first thing is stabilization. So that's what you do, you try to stabilize the land, seed it. And then for the next 2 years, you see whether it reclaims itself and stuff grows back. So I have a lot of experience there in the Bureau of Land Management. Then I went on to be an outdoor recreation planner. So in that job or position, I reached out and worked with the the Forest Service, the Park Service, the Fish and Wildlife Service. So those are some of the places that I'm going to talk about. And also here in the state of Vermont, I'm going to talk about the state parks. And I hope to have guests in from these different agencies or organizations to discuss with me and talk about what's going on in their area and what they'd like to see. So one of my big things is community, getting community to take part in doing things on the land, in particular in recreation is sort of the backdrop to that. So that's my gist. Anyways, I have a lot of different things I'd like to discuss, but these are going to be the few of them. So this is a picture of Dumont Dunes, which is a recreation fee site out in Barstow. And the picture of the guy that you see there, that back, I don't know if you recognize him, but that's Mike Fowler. He worked here at Maynard's for quite a few years, and then he started his own business called Maniac Motors. He was out there visiting me in Barstow, so we went out to the Mojave Desert, and I showed him around there. So we'll go on to the next slide. Volunteer opportunities. So I had a chance to work with the AmeriCorps. I hired a lot of AmeriCorps students. I worked with the Peace Corps. I did different jobs and went to different countries for the Agency for International Development. I held a lot of National Public Lands Days. So I'll talk about all these different organizations, but Smokey came out and our U.S. Forest Service friends came along always, and you can see this is where we were doing the riparian repair, and the state park just opened. So I worked with state and federal and private organizations to accomplish all sorts of tasks, but one thing I like to do was plant trees. So this is a real busy slide, I know it is. So my first position that I did for Volunteers and Overseas Cooperative Assistance, where I went to Slovakia, and in Slovakia, you can see me there sitting taking a break, and this is in Komarno. There's a riverboat here that's going down the Danube, which is Komarno's right next to. And here are the Peace Corps people. I'm not sure that shows up, but anyways, that's Greta and Michelle that were the Peace Corps representatives from Slovakia. And then the next one I did was in Ecuador, and this is the staff over here of the Pasachoa Forest Reserve. So I went down there to help them out with their facility and help them put their $200 million SUCRA budget into different portions so that they could track what was going on, because they had a youth hospital facility, they were selling plants, they were training people on how to go on high elevation hikes, because Cotopaxi here in the background, I took a photo of that out of my hotel room in Quito. So this is just to show you some of the different places I've been. Most of the time I'm behind the camera, so you won't see photos of me. So I did put in a few photos of me so you could see that I was there, but I was there. This young girl was my latest and guy. I was down in the Dominican Republic in Costanza as working with the Partners of America on farm-to-farm operations. And it was unbelievable to me how every inch, every portion of land that could be planted with vegetables was planted. So at some point in time, I'll show you these photos in a larger context so you can get a better view of them. But you can see the city looking down on it of Costanza, and there's farmland everywhere built right in around the housing projects and all that. So AmeriCorps, yeah, AmeriCorps students, I figure it's time to give them all a chance. So this is a photo that I took of a hawk when I was up in the Hawaii Desert, which is where these two AmeriCorps hires are, interns. And one of the AmeriCorps is one of the programs that have been cut under the recent administration. But really, it gave the kids, or these, I call them kids, but they were adults, the chance to come out and learn about federal lands and what it takes to protect these. And got a lot of work done for a very little amount of money. And they did a great job. I just took them around the first time to show them where things were, gave them the supplies, and let them go to work together. Down here in this corner, the right-hand corner, it's hard to see, but two of my AmeriCorps interns are out there doing some road condition surveys, and I'll talk about that more later. So the AmeriCorps students had to be able to go out and know what to do in case they got in trouble out in the desert. This is one of the places that I held the National Public Lands Day event, and in it you can see Carlin Canyon, the river. This is where immigrants going on the California Trail would cross on their way to California through Nevada. And I had different events in works, but the kids and the adults picked up 25 tons of trash on public lands that day. So one of the things that I like to do was create partnerships and opportunities for volunteers. Many times the community, after they got to know me, would come to me with ideas on what they wanted to do. And this was one of them. So National Public Lands Day, if you hadn't heard about it, it's been going on for years. And it's a program where you bring people together to work on a certain piece of public land or area. And in this case, we did Carlin Canyon. It's historical. The California Trail goes through there. Where you see my cursor up here, they cross right there. So I supplied all of the trees for the planting, and you can see the guy that first hired me to the BLM, Tom Warren, doing one across the river, ferrying one across the river, and we had people in kayaks doing the same. Kids love these programs, parents love these programs, and we had sponsors like Northeast Nevada Stewardship Group purchase the food for this event, because growing up on the farm, we felt that it was positive to feed everybody after they did work, so there's no play afterwards. And here, this gentleman, the kids were learning how to cast, fly cast, so that's Ruby Mountain fishermen that came out to give a hand with that. So we let the kids do as much work as they want, and the parents do as much work as they want. So another one of the things I did, which was related to NEPA in one of the campgrounds, which was Zunino Jigs Reservoir. And in that recreation area, it kept the reservoir would dry out over the winter months. So they tried aerators and all sorts of things, the state of Nevada fisheries. But what they decided was we want to build a deep pool area, which is this blue area up here in the photo in red, and rebuild the dam. So the dam inspector had failed the dam. So in this photo, I have the engineers and the state dam inspector telling us why the dam isn't going to pass. And you probably heard of NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act. Well, this is what a categorical conclusion, the first page of one, looks like. And this tells what the project is, who's the lead on it, where's it located, and all that stuff, and what authority we're doing this project in under. So just to give you a look at what one of these documents are. So back in 2009, this dam, which was overgrown, turned out to be a $1.5 to $2 million project. And you can see the heavy equipment here and what the dam looked like as they were building it. And here's some of my AmeriCorps interns that were out there prepping the area before the construction took place. So I have a YouTube website, which I'll give you that information later on in the presentation, that actually shows all these projects. I have 14, I think, videos on YouTube right now, and under Z-Lee Entertainment. So as Z-Lee Entertainment. So recreation, have fun. That's it, play. So on the it's about 11 million acres of public land I had administrative and management responsibility for. So all sorts of different areas across Nevada and California in the Mojave Desert. So in the Great Basin, of Nevada and the Mojave Desert of California. So Dumont Dunes, this is my interpretive specialist. She was demonstrating that you can slide on the sand. So yes, you can slide on the sand. And these kids over here that are holding the rocks, those are all fossils, and this is Fossil Hill. And they could take fossils from here for the rest of their life every day, and they'd never take all the fossils that were there. During the glaciers, there was a big dump of all the different critters that were in the ocean at that time in this area. We did stargazing events. We did races out at El Mirage Dry Lake Bed. The lake bed was 6 miles long and 1.5 miles wide. They ran all sorts of different vehicles, and this is how a lot of them got started. So that was done on El Mirage, and the Southern California Timing Association did these time trials, and they actually had a course laid out that was a 1/4 mile long to see, what their speed they got up to. So part of the responsibility for us at the BLM was to make sure that everything was safe, everybody was in compliance with the program that they were going to run. Also, they didn't do this for free. They paid. So the Bureau of Land Management, if we had any people out there monitoring programs, whatever it might be, was all paid for by the organization that was putting on the program. And this was also done where we have the El Mirage Dry Lake Bed Visitor Center. It's also a campground, multiple trails, has an ATV, UTV training facility on site as well. And I'll go into more detail on these things as time goes on. So recreation. So it wasn't all automobiles, and there was a lot of hikes that I did. So this hike here, you see this young lady here, out at the California Trail Center, I put on a hike on their trails out there, and I had the nurses, or I invited the nurses, and they came out from the regional medical center to do pulse ox reading and blood pressure reading, and then give people cards with what those readings were on this day. And they did it before the hike and after the hike. This little girl was so interested and loved watching people have their blood pressure and stuff. She says, I want to be a nurse when I grow up. So I don't know if she did. That was over 14 years ago. But anyways, and also moonlight hikes. So down in the bottom left-hand corner, this is down looking at the California Trail Center on a moonlight hike. So this is what the moonlight hike looked like.
I'm videotaping.
So during this hike, there's over 100 people on this hike. So they just don't go out there. We have all sorts of safety protocols, and I had to do a risk management worksheet to talk about what we were going to do to protect the safety of everybody that went out after dark on these trails, because they went up through the mountains a pretty good distance. And we'd have people leading it, we'd have people in the middle of it, we'd have EMS people there, we'd have people at the end of it, the hike. And we also had all sorts of radio contact and people where we could call in any kind of support that we needed. So here's another hike that I did in the mountains. And whenever Smokey thinks that there might be a fire or something getting started in that sense, he shows up on site. So here's one of my first AmeriCorps interns, Sally, showing this person how to start a campfire, and also how she had the aluminum plate to start the little fire going and an aluminum plate to stop it if it got out of control. And we had Home Health Services came out and put on a demonstration out there, and we walked up to Lamoille Lake and had fun and chatted and did some orienteering along the way. So This is coming out before, well, tomorrow's Veterans Day, and the Veterans Day is my one of 2 days off a year that I take. One is Veterans Day, the other is my birthday. So this is me back in 1973 up in Cold Bay, Alaska. And you can't see it, but when I was flying in, the radar site is out here. That long strip out there is the Bering Sea. This is just a sandbar that's between the site and the Bering Sea. And I used to take people out here in the boat, and we'd walk along and do some beach combing along it. So I was out there for 1 year, stationed out there for 1 year. And I just want to thank all those that are currently serving in the armed forces and their dependents, the ones that came before me and the ones that came after me, and are still there. So to see how much moving around I did, first in Lackland Air Force Base, and then Goodfellow Air Force Base, 714th, Loring. So 3 of those are closed now. So the Cold Bay site's closed, the Limestone, Maine is closed, Denver's closed. So anyways, a lot of them closed up after I was there. And I just want to let you know that I'm also going to do a cooking show. I have the woodchuck cookbook that I started years ago, but you can see there's a woodchuck here in the tree. I took that photograph when I was in Michigan, and I have other photos of that woodchuck doing all sorts of things on that one tree it was climbing. So, you know, if you wonder how much wood a woodchuck can chuck, I'll bring up some more photos to show you that. But anyways, here's my roadkill chili, and I have no sponsors, and these spices and stuff you see in the background, whatever you have that works for you, this just happened to be what I had. So I'm going to go through this in a cooking show and show you how I make my chili. And I know everybody says their chili is the best chili, but my chili is the best chili, so I hope that you pay attention and watch that cooking show that's coming up. So once again, I want to thank the crew here, Jim and Chelsea and Rich at PEG TV, and all of you for watching this. And I hope to have some guests reach out to me. All my information's here, and you can reach me at Zack Pratt, PhD, at gmail.com. And Tad Cook, who I met at the farmer's market the other day, we were sitting there and chatting, him and his wife, and I asked him if he'd be my first guest. So next show that I put together, he's going to come on, and we're going to chat about partnerships and how to develop partnerships. And that's my frog song. Good night, and thank you for watching.